The $1.9 million illusion. At 7:30 in the morning, Alina's coffee shop appears to be printing money. The line reaches the door. Baristas move continuously between espresso machines, milk pitchers, mobile orders, and the pastry case. By the end of the year, the shop generates almost $1.9 million in sales. After operating costs, debt payments, and the cash required to keep the business financially safe, approximately $42,000 remains available for the owner before tax. Alina invested $300,000 of her own money, built a shop producing almost $2 million in annual sales, and may receive only $42,000 in distributable cash. That $42,000 is not Alina's complete economic return. Part of the loan payment reduces principal and builds her equity. The cost model also includes a market rate general manager salary. If Alina performs that job herself without receiving the salary through payroll, part of the apparent profit compensates her labor. It is not purely a return on ownership. The following figures are an illustrative model for a busy independent US cafe. Actual economics vary significantly by city, store size, menu, wages, lease, financing, and customer traffic. To understand whether Alina owns a valuable business or an expensive job behind a counter, follow the money inside one $6 drink. What the coffee shop actually sells. Customers are not purchasing only coffee. They are also purchasing taste, caffeine, convenience, routine, speed, atmosphere, and access to a particular location. One customer buys an espresso before work and leaves within 4 minutes. Another buys one latte, opens a laptop, connects to the Wi-Fi, and occupies a table for 2 hours. Both may spend $6. Their economics are completely different. A coffee shop sells a product, a service, and access to expensive space, one small transaction at a time. Alina needs enough seated customers to make the cafe feel active, but not so many that paying customers cannot find a table. She needs a busy morning line, but not one that moves slowly enough to send customers somewhere else. She needs loyal regulars, but every regular must still spend enough money to justify the space, labor, and equipment serving them. The $6 late. Consider one illustrative $6 latte. Coffee, milk, syrup, cup, lid, and other consumables cost approximately $1.20. Card processing removes another 18 cents. An allocated share of annual barista payroll adds approximately $1.25. The labor amount is already included in Alina's complete annual financial model. It is not an additional expense being counted twice. After these direct and transaction-related costs, approximately $3.37 remains. This is not profit. It is the contribution remaining before occupancy, management, overhead, debt, and capital replacement. That contribution must help pay for rent, utilities, management, cleaning, insurance, marketing, equipment repairs, quiet operating hours, debt, and eventually, replacement machines. The beans may be inexpensive relative to the menu price. The costly ingredients are labor, time, location, and unused capacity. A drink can have an excellent product margin while belonging to a weak business. The difference is how many transactions Alina can process before each hour disappears. The morning throughput bottleneck. Most of Alina's daily revenue arrives during a narrow morning rush. Customers traveling to work tolerate only a limited wait. The shop cannot store this demand for later. A customer who sees a long line at 8:15 may visit a competitor. They will not necessarily return at 2:30 when the cafe is empty. The espresso machines have limited capacity. The pickup counter has limited space. Each barista can complete only so many customized drinks before delays and mistakes increase. Alina adds another employee to accelerate the line. Morning sales improve, but the employee remains scheduled after demand weakens. The shop moves from a capacity problem to a labor utilization problem. The morning rush determines how much revenue the shop can capture. The quieter hours determine how much of that revenue survives. A factory can manufacture inventory during a quiet period and sell it later. Alina cannot produce Tuesday morning's transactions on Monday afternoon. Unused cafe capacity expires every hour. The $8.75 ticket. Alina cannot build the business entirely around $6 drinks. Her illustrative average transaction is $8.75. That requires customers to add pastries, breakfast items, extra espresso shots, alternative milk, bottled drinks, or packaged coffee. A customer buying a latte and pastry creates more revenue than a customer purchasing inexpensive drip coffee while occupying the same table for 2 hours. But food introduces new problems. Milk expires, pastries become stale, prepared food is discarded. A larger menu requires more inventory, training, equipment, and preparation. It can also slow the line during the most valuable hours. A smaller menu improves speed but limits the average ticket. At the end of each week, Alina reviews the waste report. A few unsold pastries appear harmless. Repeated every day, they become thousands of dollars of annual cost. Alina is not merely deciding what customers may want. She is forecasting what they will want, in what quantity, and at what time, before the product becomes unsellable. The break-even counter. Alina's shop processes approximately 600 transactions per day. The average transaction is $8.75. Under the illustrative model, roughly 47% of revenue changes relatively directly with sales. This includes ingredients, packaging, payment fees, and the more flexible portion of hourly labor. The remaining 53% becomes contribution toward fixed and semi-fixed obligations. At an $8.75 average ticket, each transaction contributes approximately $4.64 toward rent, management, overhead, debt, reserves, and owner cash. Alina requires approximately 539 daily transactions to cover operating costs and annual debt payments. She needs approximately 575 daily transactions to cover those obligations and retain $60,000 inside the business for working capital, equipment, and emergencies. She currently processes 600. The first 539 customers do not create owner cash. They pay the employees, suppliers, landlord, overhead, and lender. The next 36 daily transactions rebuild the business reserve. Only the final 25 transactions create the approximately $42,000 available for owner distribution. A small decline in traffic can therefore eliminate a large percentage of Alina's personal return. The shop does not have 600 profitable transactions. It has a small profitable layer sitting on top of hundreds of transactions required for survival. The fixed cost clock. At 5 o'clock each morning, Alina begins spending money before the first customer enters. Employees arrive. The ovens, refrigerators, lights, water heaters, and espresso machines begin operating. The landlord is paid whether the shop serves 600 customers or 300. Insurance, permits, software, internet, repairs, cleaning, and accounting continue. Alina's annual financial model looks like this. Approximately $1.89 million in revenue. About $529,000 for ingredients and packaging. Approximately $662,000 for payroll, including a market rate manager. Around $189,000 for rent and common area charges. Approximately $321,000 for utilities, payment fees, repairs, marketing, insurance, cleaning, software, and administration. What remains is approximately $189,000 of site-level operating cash profit. This means operating cash profit before acquisition debt, tax, depreciation, major equipment replacement, and owner distributions. The margin is approximately 10%. Starbucks offers a useful illustration of how much revenue labor and products can absorb even at enormous scale, but its reported margins are not directly comparable with Alina's simplified site-level cash measure. Starbucks reports a complete segment operating margin that can include depreciation, corporate allocations, licensed store activity, and other accounting items. Alina's figure excludes major capital replacement and depreciation. The comparison reveals cost intensity, not identical profitability. In fiscal 2025, Starbucks North America segment reported product and distribution costs equal to 27.9% of revenue, store operating expenses equal to 51%, and an operating margin of 11.5%. In the second quarter of fiscal 2026, the segment operating margin was 9.9%, with labor investment, tariffs, and elevated coffee prices among the pressures. Scale can improve purchasing, technology, loyalty, and brand recognition. It cannot eliminate rent, labor, or commodity risk. Alina has none of Starbucks' national advertising, loyalty technology, or purchasing power. She must earn each repeat customer locally. Raising the price. Alina considers increasing the $6 latte to $6.50. If traffic remains unchanged, the increase creates meaningful additional revenue. But traffic may not remain unchanged. Customers can prepare coffee at home, choose a cheaper drink, reduce weekly visits, visit another cafe, or keep buying coffee while removing the pastry that increased Alina's average ticket. Pricing therefore affects more than one product margin. It can change customer frequency, transaction volume, menu mix, and the shop's identity. A premium cafe may survive with fewer customers spending more. A convenience-focused location may need volume and speed. A neighborhood cafe may depend on regulars who notice every increase. Alina is not pricing only coffee. She is pricing habit. The lease trap. The machines can be replaced. The location cannot. Alina's current rent and common area charges total approximately $189,000 per year. The shop depends on nearby offices, pedestrian traffic, parking, visibility, and neighborhood routines. Relocating could destroy the customer behavior the business spent years building. At renewal, the landlord requests a 25% increase. Annual occupancy cost rises by approximately $47,000. Alina's $42,000 of owner distributable cash becomes an approximately $5,000 funding requirement. The shop remains busy. The customers remain loyal. The landlord captures the economics. A successful location can become more valuable to the landlord faster than it becomes valuable to the tenant. If Alina signed a personal guarantee, closing the cafe may not immediately end her obligation. The location that created the business can become the contract trapping the owner inside it. Final verdict. The National Coffee Association's spring 2026 findings indicated that 66% of American adults had consumed coffee during the previous day, while nearly 195 million drank coffee during the previous week. Earlier research placed average consumption at approximately 3 cups per coffee drinker. Demand is enormous. But national demand for coffee is not the same as demand for Alina's location. Customers have alternatives. Her lease does not. Owning a coffee shop can be an excellent business when traffic is consistent, service is fast, the average ticket is strong, labor is controlled, waste is limited, and the lease leaves space for profit. It becomes fragile when the owner mistakes the margin on one latte for the economics of the complete shop. A coffee shop is not a machine that turns inexpensive beans into expensive drinks. It is a labor and real estate business processing hundreds of small transactions before the morning rush ends. The coffee creates the habit. The baristas protect the experience. The location creates the traffic. The owner keeps whatever survives all three.